Hello, it's Nicolette. I'm an American living in Paris, and I have read a lot of books about this city. So I decided to put together a list of some of my top recommendations. Whether you're planning on visiting Paris, you want to learn more about the city, or you simply want to be transported to Paris while sitting on your couch reading a book, these are for you. I've included a diverse range of titles on this list, including humorous memoirs, guidebooks, books about the culture or history of Paris, and even a few literary classics. So hopefully there is something for everyone. You ready? Allons-y! I feel like it's somewhat illegal to make a list of Paris book recommendations and not include A Moveable Feast. A Moveable Feast is Ernest Hemingway's 1964 memoir, and it is about his time living in Paris as a journalist and writer in the 1920s. The 1920s in Paris was a pretty wild time. They refer to it as les années folles, or the crazy years. Paris was really like an epicenter for the arts. So many writers, musicians, dancers, you name it, like they flocked here. They were filling cafes, they were collaborating with each other, and a lot of amazing creative work came out of that era. And I feel like A Moveable Feast is a front row seat to that. It is a firsthand account of that. And this just has a lot of personal stories of his day-to-day life, but he interacted with and knew so many incredible people like F. Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald, James Joyce, Gertrude Stein. Like, this is just a laundry list of names, but it's also a really enjoyable read because you feel like you were there. You feel like you are walking along the Seine at night. It's a really magical book. It's a classic for a reason. There's an unspoken rule that this is required reading if you are a writer or a creative of any kind visiting Paris. Everyone pretty much here assumes you have read this book. The Sweet Life in Paris, Delicious Adventures in the World's Most Glorious and Perplexing City. This book has such a sweet spot in my heart, pun mildly intended. This is the book that kicked it all off for me. I read it over a decade ago. I still vividly remember the experience of reading it. I finished it and was like hooked on the idea of moving to Paris, and also of the idea of just reading as many expat Paris memoirs as I could find, because it's a fantastic genre. David is a New York Times bestselling author, professional chef, and even has a popular food Substack. The Sweet Life is David's first memoir, and it chronicles the ups and downs of him packing his life into 3 suitcases and moving to Paris to become a pastry chef. This book is just delightful, funny, entertaining. It's a solid memoir. And it even has a bunch of original recipes in it. So it's like 2 books in one. You get the memoir and you get David's recipes, which he is also a famous cookbook author. So incredible. And he's just a really talented writer and tells his story in a really entertaining way, which is why I ran to get his second memoir when it came out, L'Appart, The Delights and Disasters of Making My Paris Home. So this is another book I want to recommend. It's also by David, and this memoir, well, his first one was about, moving to Paris and becoming a pastry chef. This is about him purchasing an apartment and renovating it, which he finds is in Paris a very difficult task. So he works with a lot of contractors and comes into a lot of problems. It's hilarious, it's informative, it's entertaining. So yeah, anytime people ask for book recommendations about Paris, or honestly just book recommendations period, I feel like these 2 memoirs by David are go-tos for me. They're just really great reads. The New Parisienne, The Women and Ideas Shaping Paris. Lindsay Tremuta is a fantastic journalist writing about Paris. Her book, The New Parisienne, is a beautiful book that profiles over 40 different women living in Paris who are shaping and influencing the city. What I love about this book is that it helps break down the stereotype of what a Parisian woman is like. I feel like there are so many really narrow stereotypes about what the Parisian woman is. But in reality, Paris and the women that live in it are incredibly diverse. And that's what really brings the beauty and the vibrancy to the city. And what makes Paris Paris is that not everyone is the same and that there is so much diversity and beauty here. This book has profiles on women ranging from designers and filmmakers to lawyers, activists, CEOs, even an Olympian. It's a really inspiring read, but also serves as a hip guide to the city because she has the women mention their favorite women-run businesses in Paris, their favorite places to hang out, what they like to do in the city. So it offers a lot to readers. It's also beautifully designed and photographed. This book is a sort of follow-up to her other book, The New Paris, which is a book that spotlights a bunch of people and places and trends that are shaping Paris today. I think both of these books are fantastic reads, but I especially enjoyed The New Parisienne. The Bonjour Effect, The Secret Codes of French Conversation Revealed. This book was so incredibly helpful. This saved me from so many linguistic mishaps, cultural faux pas, you name it, because thankfully I read this before I moved to France. It's written by a husband and wife that moved from Quebec to Paris with their children, and it chronicles some of their mishaps and misadventures navigating the French language, French culture. It's a really entertaining and funny read, but it's also super informative because they essentially break down the differences of how the French view conversation and how Americans or Canadians view conversation, because it's very different. And you can learn French and you can be speaking French with a French person, but a lot of the cultural nuances, linguistic nuances, rules of conduct won't make sense. They'll go over your head and you'll be like, what conversation did I just have? So this book demystifies that, breaks it down. It goes into topics like, why is money taboo to talk about in France, but politics isn't? Why do the French love arguing? Or why is there a single word, hint it's bonjour, that makes or breaks a conversation here? This was super, super fascinating, super helpful. Highly recommend this book if you are visiting France, moving to France, or just potentially speaking to a French person in the near future. If you enjoyed that book, you can also read their other book, 60 Million Frenchmen Can't Be Wrong. This is also a very funny, entertaining, and informative read. 5 Nights in Paris, After Dark in the City of Lights. I could not make a list of Paris book recommendations and not mention John Baxter. This man is prolific. He is an Australian writer living in Paris. He's been living here for over 2 decades. He gives literary tours of the city, and he has written multiple books about Paris. One of those books is 5 Nights in Paris. This is part memoir, but part super interesting, fascinating history book. It's both of those. It's somehow both of those in one. The personal narrative that runs through this book is John is figuring out how he would plan and what he would include in a Paris night tour. So he does daytime tours, literary tours of the city, but someone asks him, do you do nighttime ones? And it gets him thinking, okay, what could you include on a Paris night tour? The book is broken up into a bunch of little vignettes, different chapters that kind of go over specific places or people or cultural creative movements in Paris that he could include on a tour. The book is jam-packed with history and facts about Paris. Like, I am genuinely shocked at how much this man knows, and it really feels like he's taking you on a tour of the city at night. reads really quickly. Like, each chapter is only a few pages long, but each one you learn so much. It feels like a mini textbook per chapter, and it's a very entertaining read. There's even a fascinating chapter about the guillotine and the history of the guillotine, which was my favorite chapter. So, there's something for everyone in this book. I do want to note that, it's Paris at night, and some PG-13 and above things happen at night in Paris. So I would say, while this is an amazing, fantastic book, I would not gift this to a preteen because, they talk about brothels, prostitution, shows, sex shows in Paris. It's nighttime in Paris. It's past children's bedtime. So there have to be a few chapters about that kind of thing. Bringing Up Bébé. This book is written by an American journalist living in Paris, and it chronicles her discoveries of how French parenting differs from American parenting, as well as her attempts at implementing the French way with her children and the trial and error of that. I'm not a parent, but I still really enjoyed this book. It's really entertaining and fun, but also super detailed in its discussion of the cultural and societal differences of parenting the French way versus the American way, what that looks like, what led to that. Super, super fascinating. This book is very similar to the Bonjour Effect in that it's a funny personal memoir that goes into mishaps and misadventures while having children in Paris. I really appreciate how journalistic this book is and how well structured it is. It really backs up what it's saying with research and is kind of exploring the why. So it's showing the differences, but then also exploring and discovering the reasons and things that have contributed to those cultural differences. So whether or not you are a parent, I highly recommend this book. I think it's a fascinating and entertaining read. Sundays in Paris. Sundays in Paris is a really hip, chic guidebook that has recommendations on cafes, bars, restaurants, and museums that are all open on Sundays. In case you didn't know, France takes Sundays very seriously, in that most things are closed on Sundays. So this book is helpful not just for a tourist, but even for people living in Paris, like myself, who are like, what in the world is open on Sundays? It's written by an expat that has been living in Paris for a while, and a lot of the places she mentions are not really big, bustling tourist centers that you already know about. They're really cool places that are in quieter arrondissements or in areas that are more local and less touristy. A lot of my favorite places are in this book, and I also learned about new places to go to. So this is a great curated list. It also has itineraries in it, if that's your thing. So it'll give suggestions on places to visit during a full day in Paris, which could be a Sunday because all these places are open on Sunday. This is a book that is great for both tourists and locals. It is also really beautifully designed and has cute photographs of the places. I do want to note this book was written, I think it was written in 2018. So unfortunately, a few of the places are no longer in business. So just double check before you go to a spot if it's still around. Most of them are, but I did notice that a couple of them have closed. That's, the business of guidebooks. They expire within a year. But I think this is one of those that you could keep on your shelf and just enjoy and still utilize, especially on a Sunday. Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. We started with a literary classic, so we're going to end with a literary classic. This book, so good. It's a novel about an American man living in Paris and his relationship with an Italian bartender named Giovanni, who he meets at a Paris gay bar. Released in 1956, this is one of Baldwin's most controversial novels, primarily due to its representation of homosexuality, and for many critics at the time, the fact that Baldwin was a black man writing about a queer relationship with a white man. So this book was revolutionary at the time, and received a lot of criticism, caused a big stir. I think it was banned in many places. But oh my goodness, this book, it was just so ahead of its time and is so beautifully and poetically written. It is thought-provoking and heartbreaking. It goes into topics like masculinity, loneliness, bisexuality. It is so rich and there are so many layers to it, and there is a reason why this is a literary classic. Also, it's set in Paris, which is why it is on this list, but this would be on a book recommendation list regardless if it was Paris related. I feel like, side note, if you enjoyed Call Me By Your Name, or just any book that has to do with like a queer relationship in Europe, has longing and heartbreak and internalized homophobia, like this book is for you, you'll love it. Yeah, this is a classic, it's a Paris classic, it's a queer classic. You can never go wrong with James Baldwin. There are so many other books I could have included on this list. Honestly, it was difficult just to narrow it down to these because there is no shortage of incredible books about Paris. So if you have your own recommendations, ones I didn't mention, please let me know in the comments. Maybe we can like continue the list of Paris book recommendations in the comments section. And if you enjoyed this video, found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and it helps other people discover it as well. All right, that's all for now. Happy reading. Bonne lecture. Au revoir.